And that, to me, is the key of what movies are about. A turning point for me in my career was when I decided to do stories that made my heart sing. If it didn't get to my heart, then something was wrong. I either had to not do it or I had to change what I was doing. But that is where the game is won or lost. And I understood about this movie from the beginning that we had to experience these races as participants, not as observers. That required that we shoot the movie in a way no horse racing movie had ever been shot. With approach of filming where you are subjectively in the race. You're not seeing what's it like to have watched Secretariat run. You experience what was it like to run like Secretariat. There's a world of difference in that. And we had to understand what was it like for the characters when they were alone. Some of the most evocative moments in this movie, for me, are when the characters are by themselves. We were about day 4 at Churchill Downs, and we were shooting a shot in which John as Lucian is standing alone, wordlessly at the stalls, considering not just the race itself, but what does it mean? What does it matter? What is the nature of victory? I think that's what Diane's character was asking right before the Belmont. When John burns the clippings, it's a sacred moment. When Eddie steps out on the track and yells, "Hey, Kentucky," it gives the audience goosebumps, and it makes them cheer. And I believe the only reason that happens is that the audience is connected directly to the story. It's not like something we're showing you. It's something you're living through because of the way we made it.
This question is for Randall. You essentially had 36 brand new novice actors out there. How did you go about casting all the horses, and particularly those used for Secretariat?
Horses are a lot easier to cast than people, and probably easier to direct. We had a fabulous casting director, by the way, that I want to mention, Sheila Jaffe, who was so fabulous that at Kevin's suggestion, she gave me a shot at Entourage.
That's what I said. I said, this movie, it could be Entourage arc.
We had to have the horses be right, and horses have a primordial energy about them, and we got the greatest horse wrangler in the world, Rusty Hendrickson. We knew first and last whatever else we did, we had to keep the horses safe and we had to keep the people safe. So one of the most crucial decisions, and Mark and I talked about extensively, was we want to use real jockeys, to play these characters, not actors who are going to have pretending to be jockeys. So all of those decisions combined to how do we find horses that are going to capture any of this energy and brilliance. We had a contest that was actually, it was one that was already underway, and we got to be involved with it, of Secretariat look-alike contest. And the horse that won was absolutely convinced he was the best-looking horse in the whole world. And this contaminated the other horses. There is a shot in the movie, and it stayed in the movie. The horse is coming around the corner in this amazing burst of speed, and he's turning from right to left, and he's angled with the other horses coming around, and literally the horse turns and has its head toward the camera like, "Are you seeing this? Are you getting it?" It's right there.
This question is for Diane. In the movie, Penny has a difficult time choosing working mother and wife, and you're working mother and wife. I was wondering if you have how do you relate to her, and how do you keep your family together? Is there any secret?
Well, it's no secret that, mothers, I don't know, it's the #1 topic in therapy. So it's all going to be your fault no matter what you do. If you know that going in, then you can sort of pick and choose what you say yes and no to, because either way you're always wrong. With that said, and with all good humor, you know, it's the most precious and most daunting task that I can imagine, let alone that I know of that exists, to be a good parent, because like horse training, calling forth the greatness of an entity, whether it's a child or even a racehorse, you know, calling forth their greatness and working within their understanding of themselves and getting them to believe in themselves, that's a noble task. So, you know, the jury's out on me, but I sure love my job. And, you know, I think Penny is very gratified too. So, in terms of, this was one of her kids, you know, Secretariat. So she got to show them all.
I want to share just one thing about that and Diane's performance in this. There were moments that were as raw and as deep and as naked emotionally as one can be asked to do. That is, let's play a scene in which your father dies and you are there. And we had a scene in which Penny can't make the play of her daughter. Both of those were one take. We did them, we watched them, and we will never get more real and more powerful than that. That's all we need. And I don't think that could have ever, certainly there's an issue of technique, but you don't do that unless you know what it feels like and you know what's real, and she just brought that instantly to the task.
Diane, can you talk about how the wardrobe and makeup and hair helped you get into playing Penny? They're very specific, she has a great look, and how did that really transform you for the role?
Well, I think we were all so informed by the era, and being reminded of it physically is very helpful. Like being in location, you know, if we were sitting in the back lot in LA trying to recreate these spaces and the sky and the, you know, we were all very, so as tactile as we can become, serves us all. And I mean, aside from John, who, it was a personal statement, which I'll stay out of and stay in my department. But for Penny, she was a woman of her time. And she was, you know, a beautiful specimen of her time. And I don't know, they say the clothes make the man and the shoes make the man and all various things I've heard, but I think maybe she'll bring it back. You know, I love those shoes with the authentic heel, and I had to fight for them sometimes because, you know, sometimes in film people always say, oh, can you do the sexier version of this or what have you, and I'm grateful that it's as celebrated and respected as it is to be authentic to the time. Thank you.
For all of the actors, it's kind of an odds-defying possibility to get where you've gotten professionally. Can you talk about what you had to do, similar to Penny, to get through those challenging, dark times to really realize the dreams that you had?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Did you have a point where your dream of acting was difficult and you had to soldier through in the way that like Penny had to believe in Secretariat?
I don't think so. I think that this story is a bit larger than I could draw an analogy from my own life. I had to step out of my comfort zone, which is where they say life begins, so that's a good thing. To live up to the scale of this story. You know, I feel like a mere mortal compared to Penny.
Could you talk about the planning and shooting the actual racing scenes and how you wanted to make those look different from other movies about horse racing?
Well, first of all, you know, the director gets called a filmmaker, and there's a way you understand that because you feel that so many decisions fall squarely on your shoulders. But I believe that every great movie, and certainly the only way I know how to approach making movies is that everybody that's involved is a filmmaker. They're all engaged with what's happening. They're bringing their talents to making something special. And we had our sort of our key family, the elders of the family, gathered around a cork board with push pins, each of them representing a horse, and we had segments of the track laid out. The horses are only allowed to run a quarter mile in bursts, and that is to prevent the horses from getting so exhausted that then it's dangerous for them to run any further. They love to run; they live for it, but you can't push a horse into a realm in which it would be dangerous for them or the jockeys. So we had the quarter-mile segments laid around for each segment of the track. We had the camera angles that we wanted for each thing. And Dean Semler, our cinematographer, who has an incredible crew who works with him, Dean was deciding on each camera angle that we would use for those. Then along with that, we had the spontaneity factor. Everybody was so good, and this got down to that issue about with the actors. These are professionals who come so well prepared. They were prepared like it was with the horses. But what we wanted to do is be spontaneous. It was nothing for someone to come onto the set in the morning, oftentimes me, and say, I had an idea last night. And instead of people rolling their heads and thinking this is a problem, that was accepted and made everyone excited. The horse racing, once we started shooting with this tiny camera, it's a consumer camera we were using, we were getting shots of speed and dirt and excitement and chaos. As soon as we were seeing it, I was like, okay, this $1 million piece of camera equipment that we rented, I don't want that anymore. I want this $800 consumer camera. It's about as big as the device you're holding in your hand. And we use that for most of the horse racing.
A couple of comments that were made earlier that I'd like to get, actually anybody would like to elaborate on them a little more. Diane, you mentioned your love of horses. There are many equestrians I know who love horses and hate horse racing because of the potential danger that there is. The situation of 8 bells a couple of years ago after the Kentucky Derby being euthanized right in front of the global audience, I think really brought that home. So I wonder how to reconcile that, this celebration of a victory on the track versus the danger that there is and the stress that it puts on the animals. And the other is a comment that you made, Randall, about the music, about the choice of Edwin Hawkins' singer, So Happy Day, at the end. And it struck me as putting a particularly religious turn on it, that it wasn't the horse's achievement, it was some divine influence that caused the victory. And I wanted to get you to perhaps talk a bit more about that choice and that reaction to it, whether the Christian gospel song hit record that it may have been adds that layer to it.